She didn't use you because she was bad. She used you because you put yourself on the shelf to be used. Hard to hear? Yes, but necessary. There is something inside the modern man that makes him easy prey. It is not the lack of beauty, money, or social skills. It is an unresolved emotional hole that screams for attention in silence. And it is in this muffled cry that neediness is born. The invisible addiction that transforms any crumb into a banquet and any smile into hope. Most men are not in love. They are addicted. To what? To the feeling of being needed. And that is the most dangerous of loves. Lacan said that desire is born of lack, and the needy man is the living portrait of this maxim. He does not desire a woman. He desires the absence that she fills. He does not want the person. He wants the function that she fulfills in his imagination. The problem? This function is always unstable, because it is born from a fantasy and not from a real connection. When a woman's touch becomes anesthesia for the pain of not feeling enough, she stops being a partner and becomes a crutch. And any relationship that begins with lack ends in excess, of surrender, of expectation, of frustration. A man who has not learned to be whole falls in love with any piece that seems to fill what is missing. This is where the trap lies. A woman does not need to manipulate you directly. She just needs to exist. Because a needy man manipulates himself. He creates signs where there are none, interprets gestures with an unhealthy romanticism, and transforms any casual attention into an invitation to give himself. He believes that an emoji is a call, that a hi is a divine sign. He thinks he was chosen, when in fact, he was tolerated. The difference is brutal, but he prefers not to see it. Because seeing hurts, and needy men do not deal well with pain. They deal well with illusion. This neediness does not arise out of nowhere. It is cultivated since childhood. By the absence of strong male role models, by the presence of a fragile emotional education, by a society that teaches men to be providers, but never to be self-sufficient, that teaches them to conquer, but never to take care of themselves. And when this man grows up, he becomes an emotional beggar in a suit jacket, polite, present, willing, but completely at the mercy of any sweet look that treats him as someone special. Nietzsche said that happiness is the feeling that power grows. And the needy man experiences exactly the opposite. He seeks power outside of himself. In the woman's compliment, in the response to a message, in the invitation accepted. His self-esteem is outsourced. He outsources his peace to any woman willing to validate him temporarily. And in this dynamic, he exhausts himself. Because while he waits to be loved, he is only used. While he seeks reciprocity, he offers everything without demanding anything. And that's where the great contradiction comes in. He is discarded precisely because he gave too much of himself. But no one wants to hear that. It's easier to blame women. To say that they are all self-interested, manipulative, that they only care about status. It's easier to put on the red pill armor than to look in the mirror and see a grown boy afraid of being alone. But running away into hatred doesn't heal the hole. It only makes it bigger. And the bigger the hole, the greater the desperation to be seen, to be loved, to be chosen. The first step to breaking out of this cycle is to accept that no one will save you. No woman, no matter how sweet or loyal she may seem, will cure a need that is yours. Love is not a cure. It is a mirror. And if you enter a relationship trying to complete yourself, you only show how empty you are. And emptiness, my friend, is all a predator needs to act. Now, breathe. Because the most shocking part is yet to come. What you think is seduction may just be emotional survival disguised as affection. And what you call love may just be dependence disguised as choice. She didn't lie. She never promised anything. You just listened to what you wanted to hear. Because when a man is hungry for affection, any word becomes a feast, any smile seems like a pact, any casual presence sounds like a commitment. And so, without having to play dirty, without complex artifices or manipulative speeches, a woman can use you, naturally. Not because she is cruel, but because you offered yourself, on a silver platter, in the name of a love that never existed. Neediness has a devastating side effect. It numbs the sense of reality. The man thirsty to be chosen turns into a magician of self-delusion. He interprets attention as affection, care as intention, presence as investment. And that's when he becomes what she fears most, an emotional plan B. The one she seeks out when she's feeling bad but ignores when she's feeling good. The free therapist. The friendly shoulder that listens to her complaints about other men. The invisible man she praises for being so special, but never really chooses. Do you think that's friendship? It's not. It's emotional usefulness. And usefulness does not create bonds. It creates dependence on one side and coldness on the other. This dynamic is more common than you might think, and worse, it is almost invisible. Because the man feeds the illusion that he is building something. She trusts me. She looks for me when she is feeling bad. She tells me everything. But if you stop responding, distance yourself for a few days, disappear from the radar, she simply disappears too. Because there is no reciprocity. There was only convenience. And relationships based on your convenience die when she finds other entertainment. You were her temporary shelter, not her destination. Most men in this role believe that patience, kindness, and availability will guarantee their place in her heart. But what guarantees a place in someone's heart is perceived value, not the number of favors done. The woman who sees you as too emotionally accessible, always available, always present, does not admire you. She uses you. Because, even without realizing it, you put yourself down. And everything that is easy is disposable. There is a word for this that men rarely use: self-abandonment. When you ignore your own limits to cater to someone else's emotions, when you silence your needs to be understanding, when you camouflage your frustration so as not to scare her. All of this is betrayal. Not hers with you, yours with yourself. And those who betray themselves like this don't need enemies. They need a mirror. The red pill fails miserably at this point because it teaches men to protect themselves from women, but it doesn't teach them to protect themselves from themselves. It points the finger at the feminine, at manipulation, at self-interest, but it forgets that no one manipulates someone who has clarity and inner value. The woman didn't deceive you, she just used the space you left open. The problem isn't feminine malice, it's the lack of masculine boundaries. And that's why you need to stop trying to be chosen. Because those who want to be chosen are by definition putting themselves as an option. And as long as you're an option, you'll never be a priority. Plan B isn't chosen, it's tolerated. And it's exactly this tolerance that exhausts you, that breaks you. Because there's nothing more devastating than investing in a woman and realizing that she was just using you as a portable emotional charger. Do you remember how many times she asked you how you were? How many times she showed up without asking for anything? How many times she offered you something without expecting anything in return? If the answer is never, then you already know. This was never about love. It was about convenience. What you need to understand is brutal but liberating. The woman who sees you as a plan B will not change. And the problem is not her. It is you who still does not understand that being too available is an invitation to be disposable. It is you who still believes that being nice is enough, that being understanding buys affection, that being needed makes you special. But it does not make you. It only makes you usable. You've spent too much time trying to be liked. Now it's time to be respected. And make no mistake, respect begins with how you treat yourself, not how others treat you. Because a man who is always asking for love becomes a fragile character on the stage of his own life. But a man who is self-sufficient, he imposes his presence even in silence. He doesn't beg for crumbs, he builds internal banquets. He doesn't beg for company, he inspires permanence. And that's what separates the emotional accessory from the protagonist. But how do you become this man? Not with motivational phrases, nor with illusory theories of alpha masculinity based on shouting and posing. True strength is born in the disciplined silence of internal construction. It starts with a simple question. Do you respect yourself when no one is watching? Because it is in that moment, without an audience, that your value is forged. Nietzsche said that what is done for love is beyond good and evil. But he also said that what is good is that which increases your feeling of power. And what increases your power? Saying no when all your emotional addiction wants to say yes. Walking away when you want to stay. Cutting off access when your need demands another chance. That's power. You need to understand that your attention is the most valuable asset you have, more than money, more than your body. Attention is energy. And every woman, consciously or not, reads this field. A woman realizes when she's dealing with a man who manages himself. A man who has limits, who knows how to withdraw, who understands his own value. This man doesn't need to say he's valuable, he shows it. In silence, in his gaze, in strategic distancing, in emotional control. And that's seduction at its highest level. But to reach this level, you need to abandon the idea that you need to prove something to be loved. You don't need to prove anything. Love that demands performance isn't love. It's an abusive emotional contract. And contracts, when poorly signed, enslave you. True love is a consequence. It doesn't bargain. And if you need to perform to be accepted, you are not being loved, you are being hired. Assume your role as the architect of your own presence. Reinforce your scarcity. Filter with coldness. Observe before giving yourself. Face the social game as it is. Brutal for those who live begging, abundant for those who have learned to select. And always remember, absence also communicates. And often, it communicates more than 1,000 words. The whole man does not shout. He magnetizes. He does not beg. He selects. He does not chase. He walks with direction. And in that direction, he repels parasites and attracts queens. You aren't born to be used. You were born to be remembered. But that only happens when you stop begging for attention and start commanding your presence. The right woman won't be attracted by what you do for her, but by what you represent to yourself. When you become whole, the world around you changes. Those who wanted to suck disappear. Those who want to build come closer. Not because you asked, but because you vibrate on another level. It's simple. A king doesn't argue with a court jester. Comment here, no more crumbs if this video opened a key in your head. Like, share with a brother who is always being used, and remember, true power is knowing when to back off, when to keep quiet, and above all, when not to accept less than you are worth. Because true love, it doesn't consume, it builds, it expands, it honors.